I guess it's time to start the show. People, 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 are you living or are you just existing? Are you complaining or are you conquering? Are you going to tremble or are you going to thrive? It makes no difference, because right now you're tuned into Derek Live. Let's go! Hey, hold on for a second. I got to get my notes, but yeah, let's go! I thank you all for being with me. Oh, let me make sure I got them. Oh, okay. It is what it is. Hey, how you all doing out there? I appreciate everybody for joining in today. It is Thursday, June 1st, 2017, and I hope all of your goals have been met. I hope all of your dreams have been coming true, because that's what we like to do on Derek Live. We want to work hard until we get it. I'm so excited today because today is Politics Thursday. I know some of y'all are about to watch the game in about 50 minutes. I'm talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors. But I think we can just do a little critical thinking before the game starts. Is that all right? So what I want you to do right now, I want you to call. You can call if you want to. You can submit your comments if you want to. Whatever you want to do. I want you to submit your political topics as we get to the critical thinking portion of this day. Let me see who's on the line. I want to thank Dorian Woodard. What's going on, Dorian? Good to see you. Hey, we still praying for you, brother. You all continue to pray for Dorian Woodard. He's going through a tough time in life, man. If you need anything, just give me a holler. Who else do we have on the line? We have Mr. William. Gary, what's going on, Will? How are you doing, sir? How are you doing? I am very happy. You know what? As you discovered on the feed, the topic for today that I'm going to talk about is, do we care about climate change? Do we care about climate change? And you know what, Will, before I bring you on, I just want to do this one little thing about climate change, if that's all right with you. All right. So what's going on, world? What is going on, what has happened is, I don't know if you were paying attention to the news today, but our President Donald Trump made a monumental announcement today. And what he said was the United States of America is withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement also is known as the Paris Accord. And for those who are wondering what in the heck is this, the Paris Agreement, aka the Paris Accord, is an agreement that was made by almost 200 countries. It was made last year. The agreement was made last year. And what occurred in that agreement? Essentially, the countries were saying, we are going to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that are emitted from our countries. That's what we were doing. So it seemed like a wonderful idea. I know a lot of people, first of all, they don't even know what global warming is. They don't know what climate change is. They could care less. But the leaders of some countries said, hey, this is an issue. We care about our future, and we want to make sure that we at least try to mitigate, at least try to reduce the effects of global warming. And so what happened was the countries entered into an agreement. Yes, the United States was a little slow in doing it, but we eventually agreed under the leadership of President Obama. We agreed that we were going to not only pledge to reduce our carbon footprint, if you will, but we were going to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases that we emit from our country. That's what we pledged to do. Now, a lot of other countries did too. Namely, let's talk about China for a millisecond. China is the #1 polluter in the world. And you know what? They agreed to do it. They agreed to abide by some environmental regulations. And so when President Trump said that we are withdrawing from the agreement today, many of us in our minds believe that this was a war between, that's right, many of us believe that this was a war between good versus evil, liberals versus conservatives. Many thought this was a war between God-fearing, God-believing people versus non-believers. Some people thought that this was a war between the isolation supporters that believe the U.S. is just supposed to just keep to ourselves, do what we have to do, versus the kumbaya supporters, meaning we're supposed to work with everybody. But I tell you, however you want to think about it today, I want to tell you that this was not a war against good and evil involving liberals and conservatives. When you think about climate change, when you think about global warming, when you think about the Paris Agreement, this was a war against, well, rather involving power versus science. I'm going to say that one more time. This whole thing, I don't care what stance you hear on CNN and Fox and MSNBC, whatever you want to listen to the pundits, don't let them fool you. This is a war not involving religion. This is a war regarding power versus science. Let me tell you all, the scientists, scientists have already proclaimed that global warming is real. Scientists have not said that this is a hoax that China came up with. No. Scientists have already been monitoring the glaciers in the Arctic. They have been monitoring the temperatures. They've been monitoring the equator and just weather patterns. And they have concluded that global warming is real. Scientists have already concluded that there are some factors that cause global warming. Number one, first of all, the companies that produce coal and oil contribute to global warming. Number two, any company, any industry that's involved in massive production of carbon dioxide, those things that occur regarding greenhouse emissions, those contribute to global warming. And you know what? So the proof has been in the pudding. The scientists have revealed that to the working world, to the people in power. And so you would think when the scientists prevent all these things about climate, you would think this is not something that needs to be politicized. You would think this is just something that needs to just be agreed upon. We need to make sure that we're living in a wonderful climate and we just need to go forward as the leaders that we are. But I tell you, when power enters the room, I don't care what you're doing, scientists. I know y'all don't want to hear this. When power, positions of power enter the room, power can overthrow science. Yes, but there is a debate as to how much. Yes, okay, so yes, the scientists say that global warming is going to cause, first of all, the Arctic glaciers to melt. Yeah. Scientists say that, global warming is going to cause extreme weather patterns. Scientists say that, global warming is going to cause the animals to really become extinct because they can't compete with the new normal of the weather patterns constructed by global warming. That's what scientists say. But when power comes into the room, power with the initials of, hi, Monique Johnson, how you doing today? For those who are just tuning in, you're tuning in to Derek Live, and we are talking about, do we care about global warming? Do we care about it? So scientists prove all these things about global warming, but then President Trump, the position of power, comes into the place and says, you know what? First of all your tests have not given the right amount of evidence for me to conclude that this is something that our country needs to invest in. And let me tell you, I'm not picking sides. I'm telling you what people are saying on both sides of the aisle. Power says, you have not convinced me yet that these temperatures are increasing. You have not convinced me yet that we have to really consider that global warming is a true threat. Because I'm sorry, your studies have not been conclusive. That's what power says. Power also says, I don't care what type of regulations you're trying to impose on me that are trying to be good for the environment. If it's costing me jobs, if it's ensuring that my workers in my country don't have any work, I'm not agreeing to it. So that's what power does. Okay? So here's what we have, people. That's the deal. The deal is, okay, yeah, we have a wonderful idea, and I'm not a scientist. I'm not a guy who has monitored the weather patterns, but you know what I have monitored in my life? The importance of economics and power. The importance of economics and power. So if there is even an environmental regulation that is going to cause jobs to not be in abundance, that is going to cause jobs to coal workers not to go to work anymore, and those workers that were involved in burning fossil fuels not to work anymore, power says, we're shutting all this down. I'm just trying to educate you all on what happened today. Power basically said, first of all you countries, the agreement that you all have entered into, there's no ramifications, there's no binding agreements, there's no ramifications, if you will, that states that something is going to happen if another country doesn't abide by it. What if China agrees to this, but then they go back and they start building more plants, and then they continue to burn fossil fuels, they continue to produce coal and oil? Then what are you going to do about that, countries? That's what power is saying. So that's what happened today. And I'm sorry, you all. I'm going to invite Will to the show right now, very soon. But I want to talk to the people who believe, first of all, that this is just such a horrible idea. I'm just going to be honest with you all. I do agree. I see both sides of the aisle. And I know y'all hate it when I say this, but I see both sides of the aisle. I see the part that the supporters want to ensure that, there's a decrease in greenhouse effects. There's a decrease in greenhouse gases being emitted. I see that part. I see where the benefits of multiple countries coming together to pledge to do that and to actually create reports on their emissions. I see the benefit in doing that. And I tell you, if it was up to me, I would have at least tried to go that way and try to ensure that I leave a better world for my children that I'm living in right now. But I'm telling you, that's what the scientists believe. That's what I believed. But the lesson of the day, you all, this is the inconvenient truth. I don't care if there's a wonderful idea about the environment. I don't care if there's multiple regulations that are going to be proposed. If you are in a position of power, you can defeat all of that, as evidenced by our president today. He basically said, nope, we're not having it, and it's going to kill the job sector. First of all, you haven't even convinced me that, climate change is real. And I'm sorry, but we're just not going to foot the bill for the world's problem or issue with climate change. That is what has occurred today. And if you want more information, don't be afraid to YouTube climate change. It is real. I don't care what other people are trying to convince you to believe. Can I say this one real quick? For those who believe that, science doesn't exist, okay, now, come on now. That's another topic for another time. But you know what? I'm about to invite my guest today. Video mode only. Let me see. Hey, we have thoughts on the situation. And while we invite him, I want to say hello to Avery. How you doing today, sir? What's up, Will?
Oh, it works. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there.
Hey, man, quickly, for those who are listening and that may not know who you are, can you just tell them who you are?
All right. To what extent?
Man, you can just leave it as you're a guy who likes to talk about issues. I don't know, but just introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah.
It's proper etiquette.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, so William Gary, as many of you know me as Will, also fellow Dunwoody Wildcat. Yeah, and military man, been in for a long time now, 15 years. And yeah, I started getting more and more involved in the at least understanding politics and how it affects, how it affects our day to day. Probably like about a decade ago was when I started getting more and more into it. So yeah, I like to discuss issues from an apolitical stance, but with a political flavor to it, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what's on your mind today, sir? What's on your mind today?
So one thing you brought up that is really interesting, and I completely agree with you when you pointed out what it really boils down to, power. I agree wholeheartedly with that because, although, work for the federal government and whatnot, federal government is not always the answer. I would suggest that anyone needs, anyone who believes that wide-reaching, broad regulation, that if you look at it and examine it closely through a critical eye, will affect you personally, will affect your day-to-day, as you brought up, jobs, so on and so forth, increases in um, you know, prices of, let's see, power, electricity. Um, when you look at broad regulations that will affect you day to day, you need, or when you, gosh, I'm getting tongue tied here, but when you see regulations being proposed that has a propensity to equate to affecting your day to day life, you need to examine it through a critical eye, regardless of who's putting it out there.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about, and for those who are just tuning in, this is Derek Live. You have William Gary on the line as well, and we're talking about just the initial topic of, do we care about climate change? And I will be the first to admit that I do care about climate change. But this topic, this issue about the Paris Agreement, Paris Accord that he made a speech about today, he as in President Trump, it starts to get me to believe, where are we as a nation where, we prioritize the economy over the climate. we prioritize the economy over the climate. That is the truth. I'm not saying that, that is just a 100% thing right to do,
Okay.
but that is the truth. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that as it pertains to where are we as a society when climate is like put on the back burner.
Well, see, I don't think it's necessarily put on the back burner because one thing to note is that, yeah, there's an overwhelming amount of scientists, and overwhelming is relative, but there are a lot of scientists that have concluded that that there is climate change or some sort of change in the overall environment. I won't debate that. And there are also a lot of scientists that do identify that, yes, there is an overall change in the climate, and it has taken place over, as long as an amount of time that has that there's been data collected on it. But here's where these two groups of scientists sort of separate. You got one group of scientists that are saying, hey, we are the main proprietors when it comes to, human beings are the main proprietors, namely first world countries are the main proprietors for pushing climate change along to the point where it's going to really cause some sort of detrimental global impact. And you got another group of scientists that are saying, yeah, there is climate change. However, the amount of that human beings actually affect the climate, namely first world nations. And there's another thing to look at when you talk about first world nations. The amount that we add to climate change, the amount that we affect it, is up for debate. Is not as conclusive as science would have us to, or as the other group of scientists would have us believe. So I'm more to the latter group, which is, yes, the climate has changed over time, but I'm not exactly sure how much we have contributed to it. And the reason I say that is because, again, you gotta follow the money. So when you look at these overwhelming amount of scientists, what some figure they throw out 90-something% or whatever of climate scientists, which wasn't a thing up until recently. Wasn't a thing up until like the last 15 years. They typically they receive government funding for their experiments, for their research, via some sort of academic proxy. Whereas you got more independent science groups that conduct experiments, that conduct research. And yeah, they come to the conclusion that the climate has changed over time, but in some instances, it's inconclusive as to how much we've contributed to it. In other instances, they would say that it's very minuscule, in fact, negligible. So me personally, I feel like there should be more research done, but I don't think that you should just jump into the deep end with, the pockets and the purses of your citizens of your respective countries in tow to say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do a broad-reaching regulation, which could negatively impact my country. But we don't care because, hey, we're all about Gaia and Mother Earth and whatnot. When really, like I said, there is just as much evidence to show that we don't provide or we don't contribute as much to the change in climate as, like I said, one set of scientists would have us believe. To me, it kind of more along the line cancels each other out as far as their hypothesis. But I tend to side more with the group of scientists that claim that it's more inconclusive.
All right, sir. All right, sir.
Hello?
Let me hop in.
All right.
Sometimes I do have technical difficulties. I might have to
Okay.
invite you to the broadcast. Let me try that out. But let me, just before it goes, let me say this. You listening to Derek Live, I want to let you all know, first of all, that this is just like Bill O'Reilly. This is a no-spin zone. I don't try to promote any hidden agenda. I don't try to lean towards the left or the right. When I tell you something, it's because I have thought about this critically, and it's because I'm trying to apply common sense to the issue. And so the issue is people, especially the American citizens, will try to politicize issue with Russia. They'll politicize, the issue, just a terroristic type of issue. They'll politicize even climate change. So so what's going to happen is you're going to see people saying, well, he got out of the Paris Agreement. Donald Trump got out of the Paris Accord. So now that's just another notch for us to just not follow him, to not allow him to lead us. But people, when you listen to me, I want you to be a listener that has a critical thinking type of mind. So what do you do as a leader when you're forced to make a decision, but you don't have all the evidence? You just have a certain group of people, i.e. scientists, that have declared, we believe global warming occurs. We believe that if you decrease the amount of greenhouse gases, you can mitigate global warming. We believe that. But as a president, sometimes you can't go with beliefs. You got to go with actual evidence. So I believe this is the case. The actual evidence says that we're trying to make sure, not we, I'm going to say he, Donald Trump, he wants to make sure that he puts America first. He wants to make sure that he keeps the economy growing. He wants to make sure that the jobs are there, that business is booming. So if that's his agenda, there should be no, mystery as to why he pulled out of the Paris Agreement. It is for his belief. Here, we're going to keep the coal workers working. We're going to keep those that are in industries of oil and what else? We say coal, oil, and fuel. We're going to keep all these industries going, and we're not going to allow these other countries to determine what we're going to do. I'm just trying to give you the mindset of Donald Trump. So there you have it. As far as my last recap on that issue, you're going to hear many things, but the bottom line is power versus science occurred here, and power won. Okay, y'all? That's what I wanted to conclude. Will, can you still hear me out there?
Oh, I can hear you just fine, man.
All right. This is what we're going to do. We're going to keep this thing moving. I'm going to re-invite you to the broadcast. Let's see what's happening here. Oh, yeah. We're going to re-invite our Will Gary into. Hold up. Let me re-invite you, sir. Yes, I thank you all for tuning in Derek Live. We're talking about, do we care about climate change? And I want you to put your comments out there, people. I want you to put your comments out here. I want you to talk about this issue of climate change or what.
I'm back.
Can you hear me, Will?
I can hear you.
Oh man, because we're having a little delay. I want to tell everybody also. 770-4098 318-342.
All right.
Are you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay. Go ahead and talk, Will. Go ahead and talk. We'll see if it works.
All right. So yeah, one thing I want to point out. Okay. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to point out is if you look back through history, what's interesting about climate change is that it used to be global warming, right? And then before that, I remember when my parents were coming up and climate change became an issue, but they told me that when they were in school, global cooling was an issue. So if you just look at it, and it kind of shows that, yeah, what is really the issue? Is it the fact that the climate was cooling? Is that an issue? Is it the fact that, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see something.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
The signal is going in and out, and I agree it is going in and out. Are you able to call the phone number?
Yeah, I can call.
Are you able to call the phone number? All right, I'm writing my call-in number. Come on. Come on, people. All right, I'm here, but we're gonna be all right. Call it. It is what it is. I will. I just posted the number to call in. Can you call me, please? That we continue to give you all good content, and I don't want y'all to be going crazy because you can't hear the viewers call in, man. But we're gonna get it right. If you're just watching, we were talking about climate change, specifically the Paris Agreement, aka the Paris Accord. Samantha Ray, how you doing? I want everybody, whatever you want to talk about politically, go ahead and list the comments out there. We want to make sure that we get you your answers. Who's on the line? Nobody's on the line. He's calling in though. So yeah, people want to know, like, why does this affect me? When we talk about climate change, aka global warming, why will it affect me? Okay, Will, you there?
I'm here.
All right, sir. Can you continue?
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to point out, like I was saying before, the signal was going in and out. But when you look at it before that, there was not a lot of science that dealt specifically with the environment, or the environment is changing and human beings are the main cause of it. Now, there's a lot of evidence through archaeological studies that would suggest that the Earth has been a lot warmer and a lot cooler in this past. And we, given the technology that we had at the time, i.e. sticks and stones and, just learning how to use fire and so on and so forth, we had very little, or essentially we had no impact on the climate. So at that time, what was causing the climate to increase in temperature drastically and to decrease in temperature drastically? That's another reason why I point out that, the science is not necessarily 100% conclusive that human beings are the main cause of what we would say a shift in the environment. And now I will concede that, there are things that we do. Pollution is a problem, but, and it does affect the climate to an extent, but I don't personally feel like the evidence is in that we are the number one cause. I mean, you look at a volcano erupting, right? It puts out more pollution into the atmosphere than, I forget the exact number, but I remember looking at the study a while ago. But it was one particular volcano that erupted, and it put out more pollution in the atmosphere than like pretty much all of your major cities combined. Mm-hmm. Like all of the major cities combined over decades, probably even hundreds of years, with those cities being in existence. So that's another thing to look at. Now, getting back to the power issue, I agree with you 110%. Power, I look at it as whenever you get politics involved in anything, it's going to be a power struggle. And I understand where President Trump was coming from, where he's like, listen, America first. Come back to the table with some more conclusive evidence that human beings are the number one cause for climate change, and then we can talk about doing some other things that can be done, at least in my opinion, incrementally. But once you try to just start, as President Obama did, hey, I want to close down these coal plants, I want to close this down, I want to close that down. I feel as if, and that's a term that I don't like to use a lot, but I do feel as if these politicians in Washington, they're completely out of touch with the American people, because when you start just closing down things willy-nilly, you are affecting a lot of average, everyday citizens that have jobs within these respective fields that you want to just close down. Oil plants, coal, these people, they matter. Right. So when you just like, hey, I just want to, close this down and move forward with these different, more environmental friendly initiatives, I say that, we should do that. But the thing is, you can't just do it like overnight and expect for there not to be drastic consequences. And essentially, and overnight is kind of anecdotal. Like relatively quick. But essentially, those initiatives that were put forth during the Clinton administration, even some during the Bush and then some during the Obama administration, that's essentially what they were trying to do, was to change, was to switch from all of these different, conventional ways that we produce power, to switching over to more environmental friendly initiatives that don't affect the climate as much, or that the evidence, I guess, would suggest doesn't affect the climate as much. And that's not feasible. It's just not feasible, not without making a detrimental impact to the economy.
Yeah. Well, Will, I know you have at least one other topic. I know you do, but I want to do a recap and transition to that topic, if that's okay.
Hey, man, it's your show.
Yeah, mine. Okay, y'all. You looked on your computer or your phone and you saw the subject, do we care about climate change? And you're like, what does this have to do with me and my life? Well, I wanted to tell you all, if you didn't know, scientists all over the world, it may be a small number, but the truth is there are some scientists who have gone to school, who have studied the atmospheric conditions, who have studied all these things, and they have concluded that global warming is real. They have concluded that the greenhouse gases, you can look that up on Google, but the greenhouse gases that we emit as a society has contributed to the global warming. They have concluded that the industries of coal and gas and oil have, when we have these jobs at these plants, that they have contributed to global warming. How can global warming affect you, just like they have suggested? Well, first of all, it will cause extreme weather patterns because of the melting of the Arctic glaciers. It will also cause a new norm of temperature, meaning when you were in January and you expected, 14 degrees, 20 degrees, don't be surprised if you get 40, 50, 60, 70 degrees as a result of the global warming. And I know you may think that, hey, it's just good for us because we just feel so great. But no, that these increased temperatures could cause issues with crops being yielded from, the agricultural industry. It could cause animals to become extinct because they're used to living in one environment. Now they have another environment. So don't think you're just living out there on an island, and global warming, if it's true, can't affect you. That's what scientists have suggested. But then the positions of power, i.e. President Trump's administration, and that's definitely him, used their power card today and said, I don't care what you are suggesting, scientists. We're not getting into the agreement with Paris, the Paris Agreement with all these other countries. We're going to continue to protect American jobs. We're not going to be the checkbook for the world. And we're not going, maybe in 3 years, we'll maybe renegotiate some terms regarding this agreement. But today, we're not. So there you have it. If you want to learn more about global warming, because since seemingly is an issue, you can Google it. Okay, moving on. Will, what you got, man?
Actually, let me add one more thing to that.
Yes, sir.
Let me add one more thing to what you just brought up in your final recap. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Why do we need to be part of some quote-unquote if we are going to move forward to adjust the way that we do things in this country to be a lot more environmentally friendly and to start getting away from fossil fuels? Why do we need to be part of some accord? If we're that shining beacon on the hill, we don't need to be, part of a whole series of shining beacons on a plateau. We can be that shining beacon on the hill and be innovative in our own life. And we don't need to be part of some accord.
But then you have those that are going to say, okay, please don't think that we're just going to always remain the strongest economy in the world. Don't think that we don't have competitors out there vying, to advance their economic position, i.e. China. And China is a member of this agreement. So if we don't kind of show that, or it doesn't even have to be China, because I know China is not, our best friend. But you have other partners all over the world that are saying, hey, this is something we believe in. U.S., if you don't agree to this, then, that could cause some tension and some relationships between us in the future. So I understand those that feel as though we need to ensure that we're operating like apart from the world. But, hey, man, to advance some agendas in the future, we may need some strategic partnerships.
Okay, I'll agree with you to a point, as always.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you look at the provisions, and I haven't studied the provisions of the it wasn't something that interested me all that much. But if you look at the provisions of these type of initiatives, right? The phrase comes to mind, keep on though. Who benefits? How does it benefit us overall? And I'm not just talking about from the standpoint of, we're doing things that benefit for the environment, because we still have a country with citizens. So how is it going to affect the country economically too? See, here's the thing. There's one thing to say that, okay, there's evidence to suggest that if we continue along this line within 10 years, the Earth is not going to exist as we know it. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's one thing. All right. It's another thing to say, and 100% conclusive on both sides. But it's another thing to have that rift. Like I said, I can see that we do contribute to a change in the climate, but to what extent is up for question. But to still have that rift and to jump China may not work for France. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's my thing. I say that if we are going to do something like that, we need to really examine it prudently before we just jump in head first. And that's why I disagree with just sweeping, the federal government stepping in and just enacting all these sweeping regulations that would really have a detrimental effect on the economy. I disagree with that because it's like, okay, in whose best interest is it working for? And with that being said, I can understand why President Trump backed out of it. And who's to say that he may not join back into it,
Right.
if it's something that's more advantageous for the United States. And who's to say that we won't enact our own initiative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then have other countries join into an initiative that was started by the United States.
That is a possibility. Will, man, what else you got, man?
Yeah, so the big thing that's been on my mind is something that's really disgusting and egregious, and that was Kathy Griffin, which with her picture that she took, where she's holding up a Donald Trump, a model of Donald Trump's head severed, beheaded, and it's all bloody and everything. I thought that was absolutely 100% disgusting. My thing is, what's wrong is wrong. Granted, I get people want to exercise their free speech, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to come with some consequences. Mm-hmm. And I think she's seeing the consequences right now. From a more social aspect, you got people on the right, people on the left, people on the right saying, "Oh, it's absolutely horrible and whatnot," which is true. And it was equally as horrible when they had effigies of President Obama being hung up and people shooting, effigies of President Obama. I thought that was equally as egregious and as disgusting. My thing is, if people socially are going to have one sort of standpoint, I mean, just think about it. If you thought it was that much wrong and that horrible for someone to do the exact same thing to President Obama, you should feel the exact same thing about President Trump. Believe it or not, when people say he's not my president, well, the only way he's not going to be your president is if you change citizenship to another country. He is still your president. And with that, socially, predicting some sort of a nasty, horrible type of action against the president, in my opinion, should not be tolerated socially. It may be tolerated with regards to the First Amendment, but it should come with some consequences.
Yeah, man. When we have issues like that, man, I'm just be honest with you, man. I don't give it a lot of time of the day. Bottom line is, the golden rule: do unto others as you want them to do to you. Would you want your father, your mother, your son, or your daughter to be depicted as being beheaded? Would you want that? I don't think so.
Exactly.
Now, I'll speak to some folks. Now you never know what you're gonna do. Like if somebody harms your family member. Somebody harms your family member, I mean, then all bets are off. And then, you can condone whatever you want to condone, and it's understandable. I'm going to just be honest. But last time I checked, Donald Trump has not harmed your family member, hasn't killed your family member or anything like that. His policies may not be in accordance with yours, but at the end of the day, that's a human being, man. That's a human being. So, what is it, Kathy Griffin or Kathy Griffith? What's her last name?
Griffin with an N, I'm pretty sure.
Kathy Griffin, when you saw what were the ramifications of the results of your actions, you saw that CNN said we don't want anything to do with you anymore. So, and I always like to bring it back to money. Okay, let's see what your freedom of speech did to your pockets. Because was it worth it at the end of the day? Was it worth it? Not to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, man, at the end of the day, power and money. That's what, regardless if you're on the left, if you're on the right, if you're in the center, power and money is what it boils down to at the end of the day. And I think you do a really good job of codifying that. With regards to any issues that we talk about, you look at, okay, what is really behind the scenes? What is the marionette? What's pulling the puppet string with regards to whatever issue? And yeah, it pretty much comes down to power and money. You point that out several times.
Absolutely.
In all of your broadcasts when it deals with politics, at least so.
Absolutely. If you're just joining in, this is Politics Thursday. I know we talk about other subjects on different days, but this is Politics Thursday. If you have any political issue that you just want to discuss, that you want to ask about, our opinions regarding the issue, you can feel free to go ahead and call in. I did list the call-in number there if you want to call in. And you can also type your comment as well. I want to say hello to Francia Lysius. I want to say hello to Samantha Ray. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all, Jotana Mason and Dalise Williams, Jamil Mason, Michelle Pep's wife Rose, and Jason Coke, Avery, just to name a few, Monique Johnson. I thank all of you for joining, and I thank all the people that are going to watch the replay of this video. I know the finals are about to start, but Will, you got anything else?
You know what? I want to give a special shout out to the two Masons that you just said. Those two are my aunts. Those are my youngest aunts right there. So I just want to say, hey, auntie, how y'all doing?
Hey, yeah, we got family. It's a family affair on here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I want to so here's why the issue with the beheading photo really got to me. And that's because I've seen this stuff in person, firsthand.
Oh my God.
And you see what? Yeah. I've been a few places, man. So yeah, man. Specifically in Iraq, man. I've seen this stuff happen. I've seen insurgents going around and killing people that they thought that were working with U.S. forces, and I've seen people being brought to checkpoints. They got a family member there that there's a family member's body, and here's the head that they're holding up, like hey, it's not really funny, but thinking about it like that because they feel like, hey, it's because of you guys that he's dead and beheaded, so we want y'all to compensate us on the tail. But I digress from that. But I've seen this stuff, man.
Yeah.
And so I want to say I took it as like more of a personal affront, but to just seeing the type of disgusting, vile things that these groups do to people, and to have her depict the president like that was really, it's just as bad as if my, say my grandmother, who's seen, my grandmother, great-grandmother, who had seen, black men and women hung from trees down here in the south of Georgia, and then to see the effigy of the president being hung. It touches you. It touches you a bit more than if you would just see something like, okay, that's pretty messed up, that's vile, but I'm still just gonna dismiss it. So it kind of touched me a little bit more.
I get you.
Than I say most folks,
Oh, I understand, man. When you have first-hand experience with something, you're definitely gonna feel some type of way with the illustration that was given by the comedian Kathy Griffin. I know when we were talking via Messenger this week, you had mentioned. Oh, go ahead, sir.
No. So basically, what I sent you, I don't know if you had a chance to look at, but it was an excerpt from. I forget the gentleman's name, but basically, he was a former KGB agent that dealt specifically with propaganda, and this was during the Soviet Union, and he defected from the Soviet Union while he was on assignment in I think he was in India at the time. And this was in 1984. But when you listen to what he's talking about how propaganda is used to control the masses, and more specifically to move forward with some sort of Marxist, communist type of agenda. And what's really interesting is that he brings up the type of stuff that's going on. He even brings up the United States, what's going on in the United States, and it did, but you can easily equate it to what's happening now. He said that they use the movie producers, they use whomever, they use pop culture, they use the social realm, not really social media during that time, but they socially spread these ideas out using all of these different proxies. And what's interesting is say examine it really critically, because you don't want to be part of these useful idiots. Look deeper into the matter, look at how it's going to affect you, socially, and whatnot, and what that can equip to later on down the line. I think a lot of people, they just fall in line with stuff where they think it's popular, not really realizing that there are some ramifications on the back end, and they could be part of this group called the useful idiots to further some sort of nefarious agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't stress it even anymore, you all. Every time I get on here, I always encourage you all, via my actions, via my examples, to always look at both sides of the issue. I know, society and our friendships and our family influences cause us to, already arrive to an issue with a preconceived thought, just based on what has traditionally been handed to us. But I'm telling you, if you're trying to succeed in life, you're trying to win in life, you're going to have to be a critical thinker. You're going to have to be able to look at both sides of the issue, and you're going to have to be able to actually research. We always talk about this on here. Research. You got all these available tools. I was interviewing this guy. I think y'all saw the interview by the name of Brennan Agronoff, 17-year-old, sold $1 million of sock merchandise, and he wasn't even talking about the merchandise. He was talking about the principle of the internet is here. You all have no excuse. You have no excuse to not be able to learn both aspects of a situation. So yeah, be mindful of what's being fed to you, and make sure, you can follow my formula. When anything is presented to me, I'm applying logic, common sense, and morals. That's pretty much it. I'm not applying anything, by popular beliefs or, what was told to me when I was a little boy. Logic, common sense, and morals. That's what I apply. Yeah. But, Will, in terms of you had an issue that you were talking about, like the Democratic Party and what it stood for. I forgot the exact situation that you were presenting, but do you remember what you were talking about this week?
No, man. To be honest with you, I have to go back and look at the messenger. I've been busy doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, as far as what the Democratic Party stood for, because people tend to think that automatically when they, and some of it is my own fault, but they think that they engage me on Facebook or whatnot. Will is a Republican, Will is a Democrat, or Will is a this, that, and the other. And no, that's not necessarily.
Are you still there, Will?
There we go. But aside from that, we're talking about the formulation of the Democrat Party and what it stood for back then. And my thing is that I don't think that it's too far removed. Personally, I don't think it's too far removed from what it initially stood. Well, not necessarily what it stood for. I don't think it's too far removed from how it's trying to. Let me really think this through. You know what? Yeah, I'll make a bold statement and say I don't think it's too far removed from what it initially stood for. It changed its tactics. And if you actually look at our history, it definitely has changed the way that it goes about establishing its voting base. And when you really look at it, though, on both sides, be it Republican or Democrat, they do things that are going to appeal to certain demographics in order to increase their voting base. So really, it's part of the course. I just am not going to, me personally, I'm just not going to side hook, line, and sinker with Democrats or with Republicans, but more specifically Democrats. Like I did, as what was my understanding growing up, being, okay, you black, you in the South, you got to be a Democrat. I just can't go in line with that. When I started, like I said, about a decade ago, looking into the Democrat Party and the history of what it stood for, I didn't know that the Ku Klux Klan came out of the Democrat Party. I didn't know that it was really, it was the Democrats own. So that's my faith. It's being political atheist, but understand that politics does play a major role in your life and how it will affect you eventually. But look at it from both sides, just like you pointed out. Do some research. Don't just think, whatever the Democrats put out, whatever has D behind it, that's what I'm going to go for, or whatever has R behind it, that's what I'm going to go for. Not actually examine this stuff critically before you just side with one thing or the other.
So Will, this will be my closing question to you, because you just pointed out an example of the Democrat birthing, the KKK being birthed out of the Democratic Party. That's what you just brought up. And before that, you were saying that even today in 2017, the Democrats, the way the party is shaped, it is essentially standing for some of the same things that it originated from. How do you draw that conclusion with the example that you just told regarding the KKK?
Okay, well, maybe the KKK was not a good, conclusion as far as the extension of what it still, the aspects of it then and now. And see, that's one thing I can admit when I'm wrong. A lot of people don't want to admit they say something and didn't quite add up.
Well, let's see if you can find an example of how yeah, go ahead.
So, if we're talking about increasing the voting base, I put it to you like this, all right? If the Democrat Party back in the day was all about, let's just say, keeping the black man down, keeping black people down, keeping minorities down, right? And then you look at the change tactics over the years. Granted, you had some wonderful people that were in the Democrat Party, JFK. You also had some wonderful people that were part of the Republican Party. But if you look at, we're talking specifically with the Democrat Party, you look at programs that were put forth by Democratic administrations, all right? Albeit it may have been for what seems like good intentions, but it ends up, affecting disproportionately blacks and minorities with regards to economically and socially. And what I mean by that is, namely social welfare programs, which a lot of people, they cheer for, and I get it. But the thing is, there's a direct correlation between, if you look at some figures, as far as illegitimacy in the black community and whatnot, prior to the Civil Rights Act, right, which was another thing, that's another thing that I want to point out real quick, just for people to look up. The Civil Rights Act was overwhelmingly passed by Republicans back in the day. Just want to throw that out there. But leading up, so starting back before then and leading up to the Civil Rights Act, to the mid-'60s, you saw a steady, I wouldn't say a decline, but illegitimacy in the black community was relatively low. Unemployment in the black community was relatively low. And then here come these social welfare programs. And what ends up happening is that you see an increase in overall criminality in the black community. You see an increase in illegitimacy in the black community. These things actually happen. People can throw out socially this, that, and the other, and they can throw out anecdotal, the white man down. But okay, but if that's the case, then when you look at these social programs that were enacted, yeah, that is the case. So, but you look at who was keeping you down. Maybe
I agree. I agree, because we're going to wrap up. I tell you what, you just heard all the comments that Will said about the Democratic Party. I'll be the first to tell you all, I'm done with parties. I'm done with political parties. I'm done with directions. I'm done with left, right. I'm not left, right, up, or down. I'm not a Democrat. I mean, on paper I am, but I'm just saying as a mindset going forward, don't expect me to be a Republican, Democrat, or independent. But do expect me to be a critical thinker. Do expect me to always approach every issue with logic, common sense, and morals. Do expect me to put myself in, other people's shoes and try to think like they think. Why are they making decisions that they're making? Why are they promoting certain agendas? Does it benefit my family? Does it benefit us as a whole, as a nation? Do expect me to do that. And so, you know what? If you are listening to this show and you like everything that we were saying and you're going to continue to support, please always bring that thinking cap on, okay? Wear it wherever you go. We are independent thinkers. We don't result in being influenced just because, somebody has an agenda to make us do that. So with that, I'm going to say, Will, do you have any lasting comments right here?
Nope. Thanks for the invite, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. I really appreciate you for saying everything you said today. Y'all, we talked about climate change. We talked about Kathy Griffin and her exploit, if you will, regarding the beheading or depicted beheading of President Donald Trump. Talked about the Democratic Party for a while. For those who like this, go ahead and like it, share it. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel at the link that's going to be posted. And for those who are watching the replay, enjoy. And if you like this, we're going to continue to give you this wonderful content here on Derek Live. So next time, until next time, stay motivated, stay informed, and most importantly, stay winning. All right. Deuces. Peace out. Will, man, you have a good one, all right?
All right, you too, man. Until next time.
All right. Hit me up if you need anything, all right?
All right, man.
All right. Bye. Yep. Peace out, y'all.